Okay, so Vaibhav, there is another common perception into public that the amount we spend on space research and reaching to the moon, reaching to the Mars, some people think that this is not justified as such because you may be not be getting any benefit out of it.
When there are so many hungry people on earth.
Yes, correct, absolutely.
When there is so much need.
So you can in fact feed so many people, clothe so many people out of the money that we spend on reaching to Mars. So do you think that this is a right thinking?
Okay, let me answer your question in four different ways. Let's first put your expenditure into perspective. How much do you think is NASA's budget?
I honestly do not know.
As Dr. Tyson would have us believe, and you can verify that as well, it is less than 1/2% of the total tax money that the US government collects. So that is less than 0.5%. So that's not a large amount. In contrast, the amount that you spend on cosmetics is much larger. It is about 6 to 7 times larger.
Okay.
So if you can do away with one bottle of cream a year, you can probably feed more people from that money rather than space research. So that is one aspect of looking at it, which I don't personally. It's not a very weighty argument. See, but if you really look at from a financial perspective as well, if you really look at the return on investment on the tax dollars that are being spent on space research, you cannot really count them on a short term. So if you are really doing a P&L on an annual basis, you will have to write that off as an expenditure, not even as an investment. But if you look at long-term things, there are a lot of things that have come out of space research, which are paid for space research many times over.
Okay.
So, see, when you are doing space research, you are pushing the envelope on engineering, you are pushing the envelope on science, you are on the forefront of, you are on the frontier of science. And when you are doing that, a lot of things come out of it. So, I'll just give you a very concrete example. So you heard of Hubble Space Telescope?
Yeah.
If you Google that, you will see very beautiful pictures of distant galaxies and distant nebulae that Hubble Space Telescope has reportedly shot. Now, when it was initially launched, there was a problem with its focus. So, when there is a loss of focus, the image gets blurry. It's of no use.
Yeah.
And when they discovered that their multi-million-dollar telescope had a focus problem, and that could only be corrected in 15 or 18 months from the date of launch. So it was multi-million-dollar expenditure in space, which was contributing very blurry pictures that were of no use. So they budgeted for corrections to that focus system, a replenishment mission or something. But in the meanwhile, one of the scientists thought that what can we do with the blurry pictures that we get? So he devised an algorithm which was to sharpen the pictures, to sharpen the focus, which had never been done before. And so that those 18 months are not entirely lost. That investment is not entirely lost. Now he discovered that algorithm, he implemented that algorithm, and that gave very good results as well. Now once that was done, it was discovered that when you do mammography for breast cancer, the images come out of focus because the X-ray has a very short wavelength and you cannot really inject a very high energy wavelength into a soft tissue because otherwise there will be no image. So, and when you have a very long wavelength, the images are blurry. So that's a very similar problem. And the same algorithm was used to sharpen the images that come out of mammography, and that has saved thousands. I'm not sure, even more than hundreds of thousands of lives of women across the world. That algorithm that came out of space research. So if you're talking about return on investment, what is a million lives worth to you? It's much more than millions of dollars. So that is one aspect of it. Even small things, the interlocking tiles that you see on the pavement, they came out of space research. So big things, small things, all of those things come out of space research. And so that is a very material aspect of it. we talk about the financial ROI part of it, we talked about the material part of it. But where do you think scientists come from? Scientists are humans, aren't they?
Right.
Right? And what do humans need to excel in their life? What someone to look up to? They need inspiration. They need motivation. So if you don't have heroes, if you don't have science-based heroes in your community which you can look up to, you're never going to want to grow up to be a scientist. See? So if you don't have those kinds of characters, so we have lost an entire generation of scientists due to us not investing as heavily into space as we were in 1970s and early 1970s probably, and late 1970s. So what happens is that the enrollments in science and technology are going down, and that has led to a civilizational crisis because we have lost an entire generation of scientists. You see, if you really remember 20 years ago, if newspapers were full of stories, the city of tomorrow, the colony of tomorrow, the house of tomorrow, the car of tomorrow. You don't see those articles nowadays, do you?
No.
How long has it been when you saw one of those articles?
I think
quite a long
yeah.
time. Why did that happen? Because science doesn't excite us anymore. It doesn't excite us because we have lost heroes. We have lost that one moment of accomplishment that a lunar landing would have given us. So people really want things, big things to get inspired from. And if you snatch away those things, you lose an entire generation of scientists and you lose your edge in science and technology. And your civilization goes backwards. So those are the intangible things that come out of it, which in my opinion are much more important than your annual profit and loss. And that is precisely why you need to have governments spending money on it, because you cannot expect private enterprise to invest into such high risk long-term endeavors. It's generally the governments that have to pick up that bit and take a long-term horizon, long-term view. Now I'm not sure how that is going to happen with our short-term election and populist thing, but that's a different topic anyway. But those are the challenges in science funding. But if we understand as a community and as a society that investment is a long-term thing. It's a 20-year horizon or a 30-year horizon that we are talking about, not a 1-year ROI or a 2-year ROI that we are talking about.